So for my birthday, I was fortunate enough to be given a present from my family in which I have a flying lesson in a full-size helicopter. Now for those of you that watch my YouTube channel, you'll know that I've got quite a few aircraft videos, whether it be fixed-wing aircraft or racing drone videos. But what you won't know is that I actually have about 6 or 7 years experience in flying model helicopters. And not just your average toy helicopter, flying things like this. Now I don't know if you can get a sense of the scale of this, but it's got about a 1.5 metre rotor span and it weighs about 5 kilos. Now for those of you that have no idea how these model helicopters can fly, I'm just going to show you a quick clip of how I actually fly this helicopter. I think if the instructor knew that I flew my model helicopter like that, he probably wouldn't have let me sit in the pilot seat. Now when the helicopter lesson was booked, it was booked to be flown in a Robinson R22, which if you don't know much about helicopters, is probably one of the most basic helicopters out there. It's got no gyro stabilization, no autopilot, it's just pure control linkage to the rotor head. Now they recommended that this would not be the best helicopter for your first flying lesson, but with the remote control helicopter experience that I had, I thought it'd be a breeze. So the lesson started out with the pilot in full control, and he told me to just keep my hand on the control stick just to get a rough feel for what kind of movement you need to make to control the helicopter. So once we gained some altitude and some forward speed, he let me take full control of the helicopter, and man did it feel weird. The model helicopters that I fly have gyro stabilisation, and believe it or not, they're actually less affected by the wind than this full-size helicopter. What also felt odd to me was the way that you control the yaw axis, which means the pitch of the rear rotor blades. With a remote control helicopter, you always adjust the pitch of the tail rotor blades to make sure that the nose is pointing forwards. When you go into a turn, you adjust the pitch of the tail rotor blades to push the nose around. However, from this shot, you can probably see that the helicopter is almost travelling sideways. So my natural instinct was to adjust the pedals down by my feet to adjust the pitch of the tail rotor blade, which I did, and he kind of told me off for that. See, on this full-size helicopter, you're only supposed to adjust the pitch of the tail rotor blade when you're adjusting the collective pitch of the main rotor blade. In essence, it's only supposed to be used to counteract the torque of the main rotor blade. Which seemed really weird because no matter which direction you were pointing in, as long as you were travelling in the right direction, it didn't matter. Now aside from getting used to the tail rotor control, I also found it really odd with the fact that the control stick would not self-center. When flying a model helicopter, the control stick that you have is spring-loaded, so that when you let go of the controls, all the controls will self-center and the helicopter will stop rotating in a certain axis. Whereas with the control stick on this helicopter, trying to find that center point isn't as easy. There's no reference point and no spring to bring it back to center, which took a while to get used to because you just kind of have to feel the way that the helicopter rotates. So we came in for a quick landing, and then it was time to practice my first ever hover. Now obviously in this situation you will always hear the pilot say relax and just move the controls really slow. However, when you've got a massive spinning rotor blade above your head and you're on the ground and it's got the potential of tipping over, it's kind of scary. Now he gave me the controls to also increase the collective pitch on the rotor blade, which pretty much increases the thrust and therefore will cause the helicopter to take off. Now I had no idea how much pitch you had to feed in before it had to take off, so it took forever for me to actually take off. Now at this point I had full control, but the pilot still kept his hand on the control stick just in case anything went wrong. As you can see, I get a bit twitchy and he keeps having to bring the stick back to centre. His advice was to keep your eyes on the horizon, because the horizon moves slower and it actually causes your hand to move the controls slower. Whereas if you stare at the ground moves pretty quickly, and it also means that you might overcorrect on the controls and panic. So you can see at this point that it looks like I'm getting the hang of it. The other pilot has his hand quite loosely on the stick, and the helicopter looks relatively stable. But what you can't see is that my heartbeat is racing, my arms starting to stiffen up, and my legs are shaking. Once I landed it, you can see that all of my stress just relaxed, and the moment of relief on my face is pretty hilarious. So then he asked if we wanted to fly over to the other side of the field and get a picture opportunity. I thought, why not? One thing I didn't consider when he asked if I wanted to hover over there was the fact that there would be so many aircraft surrounding me when I'd only just started flying a helicopter about 20 minutes earlier, and he was going to give me full controls of it. So yeah, trying to fly a full-size helicopter after only ever getting in the control seat about 20 minutes earlier, whilst trying to smile for the camera, was a bit difficult, as you can tell by the shaking of my hands. Now going back to what I mentioned earlier about not changing the pitch on the rear rotor blades, the wind just changed direction slightly and it caused the whole helicopter just to turn. And the instructor was like, "Oh look, your mum's over there, she's taking a picture, let's do one more hover," just after I thought it was all over. So here's the recording that my mum took of me pretty much panicking and wobbling the helicopter about a lot from an external point of view. Jokes aside, it was a pretty amazing day, and I'd love to try it again, possibly in a slightly larger helicopter with a bit more technology in it. But no, flying the Robinson R22 was definitely an interesting experience. So to round off the video, I'd like to thank you very much for taking time to watch this experience of mine of flying a full-size helicopter after only ever flying model helicopters for my whole life. If you liked the video, please give a thumbs up, and if you're new to my channel, then please click subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and goodbye.